All right, I want to talk about how Karoline Leavitt just absolutely smoked, in my opinion, Jen Psaki with her fake crying on the news. You know, these people are just sickening to me, in my personal opinion, because are you really, like, it makes you wonder, you're like, are you really sad? Do you really care? Or do you only care because it makes sense for you to care to make Trump look bad and make your side look virtuous? Because I don't remember, if I'm not mistaken, Jen Psaki crying about any other shooting that has ever gone on. I don't hear her crying when inner city violence is happening every single day. Every weekend, kids are getting shot in the head. And all of a sudden, she crying now. All of a sudden, it's such a big deal. But like, I don't know, man. Maybe she's genuine. Maybe she's not. Roll the clip.
And all they should be hoping to do is have someone to sit with at lunch or someone to play with on the playground. And they should be waiting to hear an update when they get home. And that is not what these parents at the school experience today. Sorry, this is a tough one. Having your child killed while they are sitting in a pew for a morning prayer service is not what any parent should have to worry about. And I have felt a mixture of anger and a lot of anger and emotional exhaustion about this today, as I'm sure many of you have, because we have been here so many times. And yet again, like clockwork, half the politicians in our country have little more to offer than thoughts and prayers. That is all they are offering. Join all of us in praying for the victims, was Vice President J.D. Vance's response today. That's what he said. That's it. Please join me in praying for everyone involved, Trump wrote. We have seen this play out over and over again. There is a shooting, then come the thoughts and prayers, and then comes the attempt to shift the focus. This is what always happens. You're going to start seeing narratives. You're already seeing them. They're already out there about how the shooter was trans. You're going to see narratives about how the shooter appeared to be anti-Trump and anti-Semitic, and clearly was in the midst of a mental health crisis. There's no question about that. But here's the thing.
Nope.
There are trans people all over the world. They're anti-Semitic.
Is that the last in? 0.
People, unfortunately, all over the world. And people filled with plenty of political hate all over the world. And mental health issues are not unique to the United States. And yes, we should do more to address them. But it's also an issue all over the world. But this is the only country where shootings like this one happen this often. The United States not only has the highest rate of gun violence of any country in the world, it's become a leading cause of death for young people and teenagers in this country. That should make everybody angry. Weaponizing the shooter's identity is meant to distract from what matters. That is what they are doing, trying to distract from what matters. Here's what matters. Today's shooter bought the rifle, handgun, and shotgun they used to do what they did today legally. We live in a country with more guns than people, where there are not universal background checks, there are not bans on assault weapons, and it is far too easy to buy a gun. It's the guns, everyone. It's not really a secret. There are a lot of things to feel outraged about right now, and I really...
It's the guns, everybody. It's not a secret. What are you talking about, girl? What, like these people never have a salute. Like what law? What law? Do you ban every gun? Is that what you're saying? It's in the Constitution, dummy. I want to give a quick shout out to Synergy. We just got our new batch in. We were sold out, so we just got our new batch in. So SynergyLife.com, go get you some Synergy day and night. The new bags are out. The new stick packs are out. The design. The product is even better. I don't know what they did, but I think that they ended up adding something or taking something, whatever. It tastes a little bit, just a little bit better, and it mixes a little better. Nobody is promoting clean, total energy. No one on the market. We promote clean energy with not that much caffeine, because you don't need that much caffeine to have energy. You really want focus. A lot of people is not just have energy physically, you want mental energy. So that's what Synergy is developed to do. So when you go to Tatum, to SynergyLife.com, go on and get you day drink and night drink today. What law? Do you ban every gun? Is that what you're saying? It's in the Constitution, dummy, that we have a right to keep and bear arms, or you want to avoid the Constitution because one nut. See, the thing is that if you ban all the guns, what percentage of guns are shooting innocent people without nut jobs associated with them? Let's put it in perspective. How many guns are responsible for killing people that don't involve a nut carrying a gun? So you can ban all the guns, but if people are nuts, they're going to still do stuff. It's like, what are you talking about? The cat is out of the bag, bruh. There's 400 million guns in the country. Guns ain't going nowhere. Then how can we help? Maybe there's a correlation between trans-identifying people and mental illness. Maybe we should be monitoring these people. He was on YouTube showing a manifesto that he's going to kill people at the church. He's showing videos of him with his guns and all this other stuff with green tip with F Trump. He's telling you I'm going to kill people, but we want to ban the guns. He already got the gun. Put somebody at the school. Secure the facility. If somebody were to come up in my headquarters, it's not going to go well for them. This is a secure facility with guns. I'm going to shoot out of you if you come up in here doing something nefarious. I'm going to smell that beautiful smell of gunpowder and freedom. And I'm going to drag you out in a concrete parking lot and let you lay there until the cops get here. That's why people won't try facilities like this, because it's secured and heavily armed. And people can carry guns here at work. Like, come down, you get shot up. Just put 2-3 people at the school. Instead of blowing our money on stupid stuff, how about the federal government offer programs and finance programs where military veterans, ex-cops, people who are mentally stable, but still want to serve the community after they've served for so long, they got tactical experience, have a program where the state and the federal government can fund these programs where we can have these people at the schools in plain clothes, carrying guns. So if something happens at the school, they can take action. It's not that effing hard, bruh. In my op-ed, I talk about school districts in Texas where they got armed teachers and they have security on staff and has never experienced a shooting. Has never been a shooting at a school that had those things in place. Not ever. All right, let's play Karoline Leavitt's take on this, and then I'll be done with this right here. Roll the clip.
Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. I have 2 questions for you.
Sure.
Democrats, including former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Bray, attacked prayer and pushed gun control in the aftermath of yesterday's shooting. What's the White House's response to their comments?
Yes, I saw the comments of my predecessor, Ms. Psaki, and frankly, I think they're incredibly insensitive and disrespectful to the tens of millions of Americans of faith across this country who believe in the power of prayer, who believe that prayer works, and who believe that in a time of mourning like this, when beautiful young children were killed while praying in a church, it's utterly disrespectful to deride the power of prayer in this country, and it's disrespectful to the millions of Americans of faith. And I would encourage Ms. Psaki to pray for these families themselves who need it right now more than ever.
All right, let's go to Jesse Ward and see what he had to say. Roll the clip.
Suicidal transgender who hates Trump's Christians and Jews shoots up kids at a Catholic school, and the media wants to take away your handgun. So how are we supposed to protect ourselves from trans shooters? The media is bad at pattern recognition. We aren't. Just 2 years ago, another trans 20-something walked into a Christian school in Nashville with a rifle and shot 3 kids and 3 adults. They buried the manifesto and locked down the case. We've seen trans shootings in Colorado and in Maryland. They even shot up an ICE facility in Texas. And it seems like half of Antifa's trans. A couple of they-thems just got popped for firebombing Teslas. The mayor of Minneapolis says you can't say that.
Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common humanity. We should not be operating out of a place of hate for anyone. We should be operating from a place of love for our kids.
I don't hate anyone who thinks they're trans. I feel sorry for them. But statistically, the trans population has been prone to violence. That's not villainizing, that's reality. And if you can't recognize reality, you're in danger. We love the American people, especially American children. And if they're troubled and believe they're somehow a girl trapped in a boy's body, we want to get them help. We don't want to give them hormones and operate on them. Society shouldn't be trying to produce more trans kids. We shouldn't be encouraging an emotional disorder or whatever this is. And doctors should stop profiting from it. Great Britain ended child sex change surgeries. They said it's barbaric, and they're right. And politicians should stop elevating the trans issue like it's the civil rights struggle of the 21st century. You see it all over Minneapolis.
Minneapolis will continue to be a safe haven for our trans community,
for being a safe haven for transgender individuals.
We have sued them for gender-affirming care. Yes, we are not going to scapegoat our transgender community.
When our children tell us who they are, it is our job as grown-ups to listen and to believe them.
So when your 9-year-old tells you he's a horse, do you let him sleep out in the barn and eat hay? What are we doing here? Just a few years ago, the psychiatric community classified transgenderism as a mental illness. Then doctors went woke and removed it as a condition, and now millions of young Americans are identifying themselves as trans and getting high fives. When someone has an illness, we should treat it instead of affirm it. We don't celebrate schizophrenia. We don't encourage depression. Teenagers are confused. Sometimes these things are just a phase. And if they're not, all right, then a grown man can wear a dress. If he wants to do that in America, he has that right. We're a pretty darn tolerant society. But the left's weaponizing trans kids and turning them into culture warriors. And they've been turned loose against the church, schools, and Trump. You see it, I see it. The trans clan has a militant wing, and it's out for blood. They're taking lives, defiling churches, and freaking everybody out. And some politicians are doing more to protect shooters like Westman than soft targets like schools. In 2023, private schools in Minnesota begged Governor Walz to fund more school safety. They told him it was an urgent and critical need. Minnesota had an $18 billion budget surplus, but the governor didn't do it. Instead, he turned Minnesota into a trans sanctuary, and his attorney general, Keith Ellison, sued Trump so they can keep castrating little boys. Tim Walz failed. Our leaders keep failing us. They failed us during COVID, on trade, on immigration. They say they care about kids, but they locked them down and oversaw an obesity and chronic disease epidemic. And now there's a growing trans epidemic, and they won't even admit it. Just like crime. They created a crisis and then lie about it and blame you for not being compassionate. But their fake compassion is getting people.
All right, so let me just address a couple of things. I agree with him 1,000%. Most of you guys do. The only thing is, I just think the heavy trans thing is where we need to, because it's really not about the person being trans. It's about the person being mentally ill and they're expressing themselves by becoming trans. However, I do think if a person is trans, that person needs to be monitored. It's just what it is. You have a mental illness. We need to stop pushing people into it. They need to start getting the help they deserve, and they need to be labeled as dealing with the mental illness. If a person has PTSD, they're labeled as a person with a mental illness. Post-traumatic stress it gives you a mental illness. I don't know if it's considered necessarily a mental illness. I don't know what post-traumatic stress, but you get what I'm saying. You have post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, you have something going on in your mind because of a traumatic incident that happened to you. They don't just celebrate you and like celebrate. I'm a PTSD guy. They got PTS Warrior Awards. It's like, no, you get them the help they need. You don't push them into their PTSD. Just like people who are dealing with the trans thing. You don't push them into their dysphoria. You try to get them the help. But we should be monitoring people that are struggling with their identity like this. Let's go down the chart real quick because I think it's invaluable to talk about this. 2.8 million people identify as transgender, which is about 1% of the population. And look at by age, man. 13 to 17 is 3.3%. 18 to 24 is 2.7%. 35 to 65 is 0.4%. And 65 plus is 0.3%. What does this mean? 13 to 17 is about 25%. And under 35 is 76% of all transgender identifying people. They're under 65. So 25% of them between 13 and 17. So that's the majority. It's between 13 and 17. That's the majority age range. And the majority of them, 76%, is under 35 years old. Why is that? You would think that if somebody was transgender and it was occurring naturally and consistently throughout the population, that you would see a balanced number across every age category. That's because it's a generational thing. Gen Z, 20%, roughly 20% of Gen Z identify as LGBTQ. And there's a small portion of that or a subsection of that is trans identifying. But you're telling me 20% of Gen Z is identifying in that spectrum, it's something going on. Let's go down through the history of the mental health disorder. The DSM in 1980 listed this dysphoria under mental disorder as transsexualization or sexualism and gender identity disorder of childhood. That's what they called it. In 1987, which is when I was born, they expanded to a subtype of gender identity disorder, and it was while it was still under a mental illness. The DSM in 1994 consolidated it under gender identity disorder with categories for children, adolescent, adults, and unspecified. Then in 2013, DSM-5 removed disorder label and named it as gender dysphoria, focusing on the distress from gender incongruence, not the identity itself. Then in 2019, it was approved by the ICD-11, and it was made effective in 2022, reclassified as gender incongruence, moving out of the mental disorder section into sexual health and into a sexual health category. 2013, gender identity disorder removed from psychiatry's mental disorder list. And in 2019-2022, the WHO officially removed transgender identity out of the mental illness classification. So then you have to ask yourself, why is it that these people who are transitioning are becoming violent and loners and all this other stuff? This is something that I think people need to recognize as well. Trans-identifying individuals experience depression, anxiety, suicidal ideations at rates far higher than the general public. Why? Why? If God made you that, why is this such a big struggle for you? It's because depression, anxiety, and suicide pushes these people into wanting to be a part of this community. Studies show that over 40% of trans-identifying individuals report attempting suicide at some point in their lives. The problem is bigger than the trans. The problem is mental illness. It's expressing itself in the trans and LGBTQ arena. Why can't people see that?